January the 10th, 2025. Guys, there's a little more information coming out on that raid in Venezuela. We've heard several times from inside the administration how precise it was, how no soldiers were hurt, no U.S. soldiers, and that at first maybe 40 of the Cuban soldiers that were protecting Maduro were killed and shot. But even Carolyn Levitt, the White House, is talking about something a little bit different now. They're saying that the U.S. used a powerful sonic weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during their daring raid to capture Nicolas Maduro. This was according to a witness, as the county post was on Saturday on X by the White House Secretary Carolyn Levitt. Now, that's very interesting because they have, if we know about it, Mexico knows about it, and they've been told, just like Cuba, you could be next. And so if they are, especially if it's coming out of the White House about this information, this newer technology, it's not brand new, but the way that the guy described the soldiers was very unique also. He said he'd never seen anything like that, and that they seemed to be firing hundreds of rounds per minute, and that possibly hundreds of soldiers were killed. In a jaw-dropping interview, the guard described how American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier, using technology unlike anything he has ever seen or heard. We were on guard, but suddenly all of our radar systems shut down without any explanation. The guard said the next thing we saw were drones, a lot of drones flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. They were blocking out your radar and communications and everything else. It says moments later, a handful of helicopters appeared, maybe 8 by his count, dropping what estimated were just 20 U.S. troops in the area. Could be. By those few men, he said, but those few men came armed with something far more powerful than guns. They were technologically very advanced, the guard recalled. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. Was this, are we already dealing with AI or robotic troops? Or a hybrid? No, now we've seen that, again, Cuba, Mexico, a couple other nations have been warned about the U.S. troop involvement, trying to stop the narco-terrorism chain that crosses South America, try to stop it and cut it out. Now, it's interesting also that in the video early this morning, we talked about Trump was sending in another 1,000 troops. Already had 2,000, that would put 3,000 there. And if he signs the Insurrection Act, then it will become a military operation very quickly. And he may be giving a signal to more than just Cuba and Colombia and places like that, guys, because if he's talking about doing this and he lets this information out, who's going to stand up against it? What ensued, this guard said, was not a battle but a slaughter. We were hundreds, but we had no chance. He said they were shooting with such precision and speed, it felt like each soldier was firing 300 rounds per minute. Then came the weapon that still haunts him. At one point, they launched something. He said, I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very intense sound wave. Suddenly, I felt like my head was exploding from the inside. Guys, that ends the battle. He said the effect was immediate and horrific. We all started bleeding from the nose again. Some were vomiting blood. We fell to the ground, unable to move. We couldn't even stand up after that sonic weapon or whatever it was. And he must be, again, one of the survivors. The White House did not immediately respond to a question regarding whether Carolyn Levitt's sharing of the post, which included the caption, "Stop what you're doing and read this," possibly indicating the administration was verifying the veracity of the eyewitness account. And it's amazing because we don't know what the U.S. military has, whether it's a UFO or high-tech planes or high-tech weapons. We may never know but I'm glad they're on our side. But again, any weapon can be used for good or bad. It said now an estimated 100 Venezuelan security forces were killed in the January 3rd attack. Initially, remember, it was 40. This was according to the country's interior ministry. It is unclear if any of those were caught by the mystery weapon. The outmatched defenders were helpless as a small U.S. unit wiped them out, the guard said. Those 20 men without a single casualty killed hundreds of us, he claimed. We had no way to compete with their technology, with their weapons. I swear I've never seen anything like it before. He continued, he said, I'm sending a warning to anyone who thinks they can fight the U.S. They have no idea what they're capable of. After what I saw, I never want to be on the other side of that again. They're not to be messed with. The guard said the raid had already sent shockwaves across Latin America, especially after President Donald Trump recently warned that Mexico is now on the list. He said everyone is already talking about this there. No one wants to go through what we went through. What happened here is going to change a lot of things, not just Venezuela, but throughout the region, guys, and throughout the world. If they can do that, imagine if you had that same technology is applied to a ship that won't pull over, like the way they are confiscating oil and stopping these, what they call ghost ships. It could be done anywhere, football field, stadium, over a street that's running rampant with riders, like we saw last night. Maybe on a smaller scale, I don't know. But it's pretty amazing to me that they even talked about it, and it has to be, to me, to send a signal. And if you remember, Lindsey Graham has been posting these warning messages to Iran about messing with the U.S. So again, this information, I'm sure, has gotten back to Iran because they have 3 different proxies inside of Venezuela. The Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthi groups are embedded there, waiting to take their or make their move on the U.S. Why else would they be there? I know they're profiting from the narco-trafficking, but why would you have those groups in there? And again, what has happened to Venezuela's military? Doesn't seem to exist if you got that many Cuban troops on the ground. Anyway, guys, we're watching it. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.